There is a system running right now that knows your address, your Medicaid records, your license plate, your social media posts, your phone location, and the confidence score, an actual numerical score of where you probably are at this exact moment. It was built by one company, and that company was built by one man. His name is Peter Thiel. And the more you learn about him, the less comfortable you're going to be. Let's start with the numbers, because the numbers are genuinely staggering. In 2025 alone, Palantir Technologies, the data and surveillance company Thiel co-founded, pulled in nearly $970 million in federal contracts. ICE's payments to Palantir jumped 297% year over year to over $81 million. In February 2026, the Department of Homeland Security signed a blanket billion-dollar purchasing agreement that lets DHS agencies skip competitive bidding entirely. Just skip it. Write the check. Palantir. This is not a contractor. This is infrastructure. This is the central nervous system of American immigration enforcement. And it was built by a man who, in 2009, sat down and wrote publicly for a libertarian think tank that he no longer believes freedom and democracy are compatible. Let that land for a second. The man building the eyes of the American state doesn't believe in democracy, and he's been very clear about that. So who is Peter Thiel actually? He was born in Germany, came to America as a child, graduated Stanford in philosophy, got his law degree, clerked on a federal appeals court. Then he co-founded PayPal, sold it to eBay for $1.5 billion, seeded Facebook with $500,000 when Zuckerberg was still in a dorm room, and created what Silicon Valley calls the PayPal Mafia, a tight network of tech money that includes Elon Musk, Reid Hoffman, and a rotating cast of people who now run significant chunks of the American economy and government. And in 2003, he co-founded Palantir, named deliberately after the all-seeing stones in Lord of the Rings, the ones that let you watch anyone, anywhere, at any time, seeded with money from In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital arm. Designed from day one to do what intelligence agencies legally couldn't do themselves: aggregate and analyze vast amounts of data on private individuals. The CIA couldn't build this, so they funded someone else to build it for them. Here's how it works in practice. ICE agents today can open a Palantir interface and pull up a target, a person, and see their criminal records, their work history, their immigration filings, their air travel, their border crossings, their social media, their phone location history, their driver's license photo, and now, through a tool called eLight, their Medicaid records, their health data. The Electronic Frontier Foundation described it plainly. ICE is using a Palantir tool that uses Medicaid and other government data to stalk people for arrest. And in April 2025, ICE gave Palantir $30 million to build something called Immigration OS, an AI platform that tracks self-deportations in near real time and generates prioritized lists of enforcement targets. A prototype was due in September 2025. The full system runs through 2027. This is the architecture of a surveillance state. And it started with $58,000 in 2011. Now, you'd think the story of a man building this kind of power would be relatively straightforward: ambitious tech billionaire, government contracts, political influence. Fine. We've seen that story, but Peter Thiel is not a straightforward story. Because here's where it gets genuinely strange. Thiel is openly gay. He was the first openly gay speaker at a Republican National Convention, standing on that stage in 2016 saying, "I am proud to be gay." At the same convention that adopted what the Log Cabin Republicans called the most anti-LGBTQ platform in Republican Party history, opposing marriage equality, endorsing conversion therapy, he stood there and said he was proud. Then he donated $15 million to JD, Vance's Senate campaign, a man who argued sexual orientation should have no civil rights protections, and $20 million to Blake Masters, who wanted to replicate Florida's Don't Say Gay law at the federal level. Thiel is funding the very movement that would erase people like him, and he knows it. He's a Stanford-trained philosopher. He's thought about this, which means either he doesn't care or he thinks the culture war is a useful tool for people who have already escaped its consequences. There's a word for that. Several, actually. Then there's the Epstein connection. And I want to be precise here because precision matters. When the DOJ released Epstein's files in January 2026, Thiel's name appeared over 2,200 times. He and Epstein exchanged more than 2,000 messages over 5 years. 2014 to 2019. They had documented in-person meetings. Epstein invested $40 million in Thiel's Valor Ventures fund. In 2018, Epstein invited Thiel to his Caribbean island. Thiel's spokesperson says he never went. That specific claim hasn't been contradicted. There's also the Russian angle, which is genuinely unsettling. Epstein used his relationship with former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak to introduce Thiel to Sergei Belyakov, a former Russian deputy minister with a background at the FSB Academy, Russia's intelligence service. Thiel wrote to Belyakov, "Let me know when you are in SF, and it would be good to find a time to meet." Was this just business networking? Maybe, but it's a strange web for a man who builds surveillance tools for the American government. Then there's Gawker. In 2007, Gawker's tech blog outed Thiel as gay. He described it as very painful. So he waited quietly, and then he spent $10 million secretly funding Hulk Hogan's invasion of privacy lawsuit against Gawker. The jury awarded $140 million. Gawker couldn't survive it. They filed for bankruptcy in 2016. The same man who donated $1 million to the Committee to Protect Journalists secretly spent $10 million to bankrupt a media company. He'd clerked on a federal appeals court. He knew exactly what he was doing to press law. And then there's Jeff Thomas. Jeff Thomas was a model and influencer who met Thiel at Coachella around 2015. During the pandemic, they grew closer. Thomas described himself as Thiel's kept companion, living in a $13 million Hollywood Hills mansion Thiel provided. He said, in his own words, "I saw the spark in me fade away, and it was toxic, and it was unhealthy." In November 2022, Thomas spoke to The Intercept about his relationship with Thiel. He also cooperated with Democratic researchers investigating Thiel. He said he was trying to influence Thiel to show him how it affects myself, certain individuals, himself. 4 months later, on March 8th, 2023, Jeff Thomas was found dead at the bottom of an apartment building in Miami. Miami police ruled it a suicide. I'm not going to tell you what to think about that. The police ruled it a suicide. But the circumstances, a man who'd been cooperating with investigators, who'd spoken publicly about his complicated relationship with one of the most powerful men in America, found dead weeks after attending Thiel's New Year's Eve party where he'd been publicly humiliated in front of guests. That's a set of facts that doesn't stop sitting with you. Meanwhile, Thiel has been quietly preparing for something. He spent 12 days in New Zealand over 5 years, then was granted citizenship under exceptional circumstances, bypassing the normal 350-day residency requirement. In a private ceremony in Santa Monica, where he swore loyalty to Queen Elizabeth II on a Bible, he bought a 477-acre estate at Lake Wanaka. He tried to build a 108 2-foot glass-lined bunker lodge for 24 people. The local council refused him. He's interested in parabiosis, the idea that transfusing blood from young people might reverse aging. His company's health director reached out to a startup charging $8,000 per transfusion from donors under 25. He's reportedly interested in cryogenics. The man building the surveillance infrastructure of the American state is also trying to live forever and has a backup country ready to go. Here's the contradiction at the center of all of this. Thiel wrote in 2009 that the great task for libertarians is to find an escape from politics in all its forms. He doesn't want to reform democracy, he wants to transcend it. To build systems so powerful, so deeply embedded in the machinery of the state, that whoever controls them doesn't need to win elections. He's not building a libertarian utopia. He's building leverage. And leverage at that scale doesn't care about your politics. It only cares about who holds it. His company's CEO says, if you're worried about ICE, you should want more Palantir. His tools are already tracking protesters, already cross-referencing your health records, already generating confidence scores on where you sleep at night. And the man who built all of it wrote, in plain English, that he doesn't believe freedom and democracy go together. So here's the question I keep coming back to. What do you call a system where one person builds the eyes of the state, funds the politicians who control the state, profits from the contracts those politicians award, and believes sincerely, philosophically, that democracy itself is the problem? You don't have to call it anything. You just have to decide if you're comfortable with the answer.